Hi everybody, we are going to work today on fractions with different denominators when we need to add and subtract. In fact, I'm going to add that right here at the top, but we're going to work on adding and subtracting only today. And these are different from yesterday because these definitely have different denominators. What I'm going to start with is all of the steps that you need to do this, and then you should refer to this every time you do it for the assignment and then for the quiz. So here are the steps first, and please note that all addition and subtraction, when you're doing that with fractions, they must have a common denominator. Okay, so step number one is rewrite all of the fractions using the lowest common denominator. We'll talk about that in a moment when we do an example. Secondly, add or subtract just the numerators, exactly like yesterday. The denominator stays the same. Once you're at the lowest common denominator, you write the result over that lowest common denominator, which is the same as what you changed it to. And then you simplify only if possible. Sometimes it's already simplified and you cannot. So we are going to work with 1/8 plus 1/12. And notice I'm adding up and down. And the reason I'm doing that is to organize my work a little bit better. So what I know is the lowest common multiple, this is why we did this last chapter, between 8 and 12 is the number 24. I know that I have to do a 3 over 3. That's my fancy form of 1 I'm using. And so this would be a 3/24. But 12 to 24 is times 2. It doesn't matter what you multiply these for because we're simply multiplying by a 1 because it's a 2 over 2. So this is 2/24. Now we have the common denominator. I add the 3 plus the 2 and I end up with 5/24. I would like you to try number 2, but I'm going to get you started this way and realize that the lowest common denominator is going to be eighths. This one is already in the lowest common denominator form, but this one needs to be multiplied. So you can pause the video. I'd like you to do this one and number 3 and then see if your answers match mine. All right, I'm going to just take you through this. I converted 3/4 to 6/8. I added them up and notice that I have an improper fraction right here, and it says my step 4 is simplify if possible, and I know that 8 goes in there one time with 3 left over, so there's 3/8 left over. This one can be a little bit trickier. Again, when you write it out, you can put it off to the side what you're converting it to and make sure you multiply them by 2 different things. In order to get to 30 with the sixths, we had to multiply by 5 over 5, which means it's 25/30. To get to 30 from 7/10, you multiply by 3 over 3. That's 21/30. So now the step 2 is 25 plus 21, which is 46, which is written here, 46/30, which would be 1 whole and 16/30. If I divide both of these in half, I get 1 and 8/15 as my answer. So we are going to do the same thing. We do the exact same steps for subtraction. There's nothing different about it other than you need to watch the sign and don't add them instead of subtracting. The most important thing to remember, the why we're converting into the same kind of fraction with the common denominator, is we're simply cutting these pieces into equal sections. So for instance, if we have 1/2 and 1/4, we're just cutting these into fourths so that we can subtract same size pieces. What we are really doing is, if there was a candy bar and you had to share it with a bunch of people, and you subtracted 1/7 and you got your piece, and then the next person came and they got 1/9, those are 2 different size pieces. We need to split those into equal size pieces, which is exactly what we're doing when we make common denominators. We're making sure that there are same size pieces when we add or subtract. So we look at number 4. I'll give you a little hint here. Let's go for the 12ths. And then please make sure that you're subtracting for these. I'm going to pause the video. If you get these correct, you are definitely ready for the assignment. If you did not, there are more practice videos available. I would encourage you to watch one before you start the assignment. The biggest difference between yesterday is you've got to look at these denominators. I will pause it and then you guys can see if you got the correct answer. All right, for number 1, I wrote down all of my steps and what I multiplied by, my fraction over here. So I got 1/12 for number 4. And then for number 5, I converted to 18ths. 9 minus 8 is 1, so it's 1/18. Number 3, I multiplied the top by 5 over 5 and the bottom by 3 over 3, much like we did up here. And I ended up getting 25 minus 9, which is 16/30. Couldn't read my writing there. And then I reduced it. I divided the top and the bottom. I divided by 2, so I got an 8/15. I need to be very, very clear on this. This is an assignment you must, as we say in our classroom, kill a tree. You need to show the original problem. I need to see that you know how to convert them to the lowest common denominator, and that means that the top one you might be multiplying by 2 over 2, the bottom one you might be doing another number. It's very important. There are too many steps to do in your head that I need to be able to see your process. This is going to be true. You will lose points if you do not show your work on this assignment, on the quiz, and on the test. Even if you say, I can do this in my head. It is not you can, you must show all work. That includes the original problem. Sorry about the typo. Original problem and the LCD fraction that you chose, plus the process and any reducing. So I'm going to write that plus process and reduce. This is an absolute must. You will get so many more right when you use this technique, and also when you line them up and down. You can do them straight across as long as I can see your work, but it tends to get too squished together and I tend to see a lot of errors. I have found over the years that this is the best way for students to stack them, especially because we're going to be doing mixed numbers next. All right, have a great lesson. Please come see me, and if you want to check a couple answers off before you go too deep into the assignment, I'm happy to do that too. Thanks, everyone.